Stephanie White's style of coaching is not for Caitlin Clark.
That there's a bit of a divide between the way that they see the game and the way that they think the Indiana Fever should play.
Possibly try to sabotage the greatest asset the league has ever gotten.
Stephanie White just got fired after sabotaging Caitlin Clark. This is huge. Stephanie White is officially fired after the disastrous meltdown against the Valkyries on July 10th, where her bizarre strategy once again sabotaged Caitlin Clark. The Fever looked lost. Clark was sidelined from her strengths, and fans had seen enough. This isn't just a firing. It's fallout from a coach who completely mismanaged the WNBA's biggest star.
She has taken away Caitlin Clark's greatest asset, which is the creator and instigator of offense.
July 10th, 2025. The Indiana Fever got embarrassed, at home, by the Golden State Valkyries in a 91-72 beatdown on July 10th. It wasn't just a bad game, it was a public unraveling. And right in the middle of it all, Caitlin Clark, back on the court, but barely recognizable.
Looks like Stephanie White has spaded Caitlin Clark, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Coach Stephanie White started Aari McDonald next to Caitlin Clark against the Valkyries, which again she explained by saying it helps to take the burden off of Caitlin.
She looked like someone who'd been stripped of her game. No pick and rolls, no transition attacks, no floor command. Instead, Clark was shoved off the ball, stuck watching Aari McDonald run the offense while she camped in the corner like a forgotten role player. And just like that, the Fever's only reliable weapon, the Clark-Boston two-woman game, vanished without a trace.
Fans online has been threatening to quit watching the Indiana Fever basketball. Fans is threatening to quit going to the games. And if this was to happen,
Fever fans weren't just angry, they were stunned. What is this lineup? Caitlin Clark. At small forward, nobody could believe what they were seeing. And when Clark finished with just 8 points in her highly anticipated return, the internet exploded. Not because Clark was bad, but because it looked like she was intentionally neutralized.
With Stephanie White under fire by Fever fans, she blasted her team after the squad's loss to the Golden State Valkyries.
Because I felt like there was a lack of competitive fire. With the exception of about 2 5-minute spurts, our attention to detail was poor.
And in the post-game press conference, Stephanie White took the mic and poured gasoline on the flames. She didn't take a single ounce of responsibility. Instead, she blamed the players. She slammed the team for undisciplined play, lack of effort, and poor attention to detail. She said they lacked competitive fire. But never once did she explain why her rotations made no sense, why Clark was being misused, why the game plan fell apart the second they tipped off.
Our attention to detail, undisciplined. I felt like our energy and our competitive fire was not there, and that's disappointing.
This wasn't just tone deaf, it felt deliberate. White acted like she had no part in the chaos. But the fans weren't fooled. Everyone saw it. This was on coaching. And that's when the whispers turned into shouting. Stephanie White is sabotaging Caitlin Clark.
Concern, defensively, just lots of movement, lots of lateral movement. I thought she looked good at times, and I think that's just building consistency and building her endurance and all of that. So I was pleased.
So, that's an interesting comment there.
And let's be honest, this isn't new. The tension between Clark and White has been brewing for weeks. It goes all the way back to May 24th, a close loss to the Liberty, where Clark said on record, "I'm best with the ball in my hands. That's when I'm most effective." A few minutes later, White contradicted her, praising Clark's cutting and screening, but not her ball handling. That philosophical split hasn't gone away. If anything, it's only gotten louder and uglier.
Here's what Stephanie White said immediately afterwards in regards to basically what went wrong and why, the Fever fell so flat.
White keeps insisting that playing Clark off the ball gives the team different looks. She even compared it to how the Mavericks move the ball better without Luka Doncic on the floor. Yes, Luka, A generational talent, just like Clark, and the engine of his entire team. So when White brings that up, it's hard not to hear the message between the lines. The team plays better without Caitlin dominating the ball.
We've seen these glimpses where I do believe the Fever at their best can still be what I've talked about and what I've discussed. But
that's not just strategy, that's a belief system. And it flies directly in the face of everything Clark has done. At Iowa, early in the WNBA, and in the national spotlight. She's not a spot-up shooter, she's not a decoy, she's a playmaker, a floor general, a once-in-a-lifetime engine who can drop 30 and dish 12 without breaking a sweat.
Poof, the one thing that was in existence that actually worked, that felt like a little bit of something offensive that worked, gone.
So when Stephanie White started Aari McDonald at point guard against the Valkyries, it felt like the final insult. And the results? Disastrous. The offense was broken. Clark looked lost. The chemistry with Boston evaporated. And somehow the only person who didn't seem to notice was the coach.
The fandom is in pure crash out mode. Somebody exposed something out there.
The fans weren't having it. Experts are calling her system a point-forward mess and accusing her of neutering Clark's entire game. But the big question is, why is Clark being used like a role player? Why is the only offensive set that worked, the Clark-Boston pick and roll, completely gone?
Does Stephanie White have an agenda? Her coaching style is influenced by her NC2A championship coach, Carolyn Peck.
Then there's the Carolyn Peck connection. White was mentored by Peck, who just days ago said on ESPN that the Fever were better without Clark. That's not just a hot take, that's a red flag. White followed Peck at Vanderbilt, where she drove every top player into the transfer portal. It's all coming full circle, the same pattern of losing locker rooms and mismanaging elite talent.
Stephanie White is not the right coach for you.
Whether you believe there was a hidden agenda or just plain incompetence, one thing is crystal clear. Something had to give, and it finally did. Stephanie White is out. The Indiana Fever front office made the only move they could because this wasn't just about one bad game. This was about a pattern of failure, a complete mismatch between coach and star, and a team that was circling the drain with the most valuable player the league has seen in decades.
There is a plot to destroy Caitlin Clark, and Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever might be in on it.
Let's look at the facts. The Fever were 5-14 before the Valkyries' loss on July 10th, which made it 5-15 after a humiliating 19-point defeat to an expansion team that didn't even exist last season. That was Clark's highly anticipated return, and instead of coming back to a rhythm and system that played to her strengths, she was shoved into a clunky off-ball role next to Aari McDonald, who wasn't even in the WNBA 3 weeks ago. That's not just poor coaching, that's malpractice.
Stephanie White is an idiot, should be fired. This woman played Aari McDonald 18 minutes in the first half. 3 weeks ago, Aari McDonald wasn't on a WNBA roster.
Stephanie White's track record doesn't exactly inspire confidence either. During her time at Vanderbilt, she ran the program into the ground, going 46-83 overall, with multiple star players transferring out, including all-SEC forward Autumn Newby, top scorer Mariella Fasula, and freshman standout Rebecca Dahlman. Why? Because players didn't feel empowered, because they were misused, because White couldn't manage elite talent.
The Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston deadly connection, pick and roll, two-man game connection that has worked.
Now fast forward to the WNBA, and she's doing it again. Caitlin Clark, the #1 overall pick, leading all rookies in scoring and assists, the league's top jersey seller, the only reason the Fever are selling out arenas coast to coast. And Stephanie White neutered her. Took away her pick and roll with Aaliyah Boston, made her stand in the corner, removed the very thing that makes her generational, the ball in her hands, the freedom to create.
Caitlin Clark has a horrible game in her return. The whole team is horrible.
That's not just bad strategy, that's sabotage. Whether it was intentional or just stubbornness, the outcome was the same. The Fever were getting worse, not better. And the face of the league looked miserable. So the front office finally stepped in. Because when your coach doesn't know how to handle the future of your franchise, the most valuable asset in your league, you don't wait. You pull the plug. And they did. Caitlin Clark may not be out here throwing chairs or blasting coaches on Instagram Live, but she's saying plenty. And if you've been paying attention, it sounds a whole lot like a cry for help.
I think we need to do a better job of getting me the ball in transition, whether somebody's there or not. I think there's a fine balance of playing me off the ball and also getting the ball in my hands. That's when I'm the best in transition. Everybody knows that. I'm very open about that.
She's said it multiple times now, in different ways and different tones, but it always comes back to one line. That's when I'm best, with the ball in my hands.
You have to consider the possibility that the Indiana Fever are in on the plot to destroy Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark is not thriving in this system. She's a Ferrari parked in a garage being told to play bumper cars. The woman led all of college basketball in assists and points, and now she's out here watching Arie McDonald, who was unemployed a month ago, run the offense like it's her team.
I thought we started really well. I thought we were competitive. I thought we played with energy in the first 5 minutes. And then, when they kind of went on their first run, it kind of deflated us a little bit, which I'm not really sure why. But the offense, I think, for us, it starts on defense.
And when Clark was asked post-game after the Valkyrie disaster, where the Fever got steamrolled by an expansion team, she didn't explode. No diva behavior, just thoughtful disappointment. She said the team started strong, had energy early, and then the run happened and they deflated. Let's pause on that. We deflated. That's not normal locker room talk. That's a nice way of saying we lost our soul out there.
Struggled, scouting report-wise, we struggled personnel, we struggled to do what the coaches asked of us, and then, overall, we just played with more energy and effort, and, those are the things that just can't happen.
She admitted the defense was sloppy, said the team didn't follow the scouting report, and openly took responsibility. Nobody played well today, but you could hear it. In her tone, in her body language, something wasn't right. And now, we're starting to see what's really going on beneath the surface. A brewing philosophical rift between Clark and head coach Stephanie White.
You see the Mavs just play differently without Luka on the floor. When he's not on that floor, the ball is moving. It's popping. Multiple players getting involved in the action. So it does give you a little insight into how Coach White thinks at times.
Coach Stephanie White got other ideas. She even brought up Luka Doncic. Yes, Luka, saying how the Mavs move the ball better without him on the floor. That wasn't some random thought. That was a window into how she sees Caitlin Clark. Think about it. Most people compare Clark to Steph Curry, the elite shooter with unlimited range. But truthfully, she's more of a LeBron-Luka hybrid, a heliocentric offensive weapon who bends the defense with her gravity and playmaking. She's a system, not a piece of one. So when White starts building a scheme that treats Clark like a 3-and-D wing, it's not just confusing, it's insulting.
Caitlin Clark should always be the instigator of offense on this team. The distributor and instigator of offense, whether it is her scoring or her distributing the ball out in the way that we know she can.
Caitlin Clark is the identity of this team, and it feels like Stephanie White is trying to reshape that identity into something it's not. Something balanced, something team first, something where Clark blends into the system rather than being the system.
We're talking about a woman that obviously has court vision in the same way that some of the greatest distributors in the history of basketball ever have.
But the WNBA didn't explode in popularity this year because people wanted to watch the Fever share the ball 12 passes deep like the 2014 Spurs. They showed up to watch Clark create magic. And when the magic disappears, people notice. They start asking hard questions. And right now, the answers are getting harder to swallow.
White is to blame. Stephanie White will go down as the coach that ruined Caitlin Clark's fan base.
Whether you believe that or not, it's undeniable that something had to give. And it just did. Stephanie White is out. Fired. Done. The Fever had no choice. The friction had become a distraction. The losses too ugly, and the fan base too furious. More importantly, Clark is the franchise now. She's not just a player, she's the future of the WNBA. And if your coach can't figure out how to unleash your star, it's the coach who has to go.
It ought to be an NBA coach or former NBA coach, somebody that does not have any agenda.
So what now for the Indiana Fever? Without Stephanie White on the sideline, the franchise faces a crossroads, but also a massive opportunity. This isn't just about finding a new coach, it's about rebuilding the entire identity of the team around Caitlin Clark. No more philosophical tug of war, no more trying to force her into a system that never fit. The next hire has to be someone who understands star power, someone who knows how to let Clark cook. Names like Mark Jackson and Bill Laimbeer are already being floated. Former NBA minds with no agenda, just a winning mentality.
But you're going to have to make sure that Caitlin Clark is able to...
And honestly, this could unlock everything. Clark's 25-point, 12-assist potential? Very real. The Boston Clark pick and roll? Ready to be unleashed again. Most importantly, with the right leadership, this young Fever roster could go from lost to lethal. The WNBA's most watched team just cleared the runway. Now it's time to fly. This isn't just a firing, it's a warning, a turning point. A signal to every coach, exec, and league official. Adapt to the Caitlin Clark era or get left behind. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to get more updates on WNBA Season 2025.